Hi everyone, so we're just gonna wait like 3 minutes for everyone to come in and then we'll start the presentation. All right, Todd, are we good to go? Okay.
Okay, so good day, everyone. Welcome to the Semitic Language Symposium. So we have two speakers with us here today, David Swigarston and Joud Rashed. Okay,
Hello.
so let me introduce both of them. David is a high school junior at Choate Rosemary Hall in Connecticut. He is an executive member of the LingLeague, serving as a contact specialist and the Reddit account manager. He speaks English, is mostly fluent in Hebrew, and learns or has learned Arabic, Spanish, Esperanto, and Latin. Although his skills in the last two are probably pretty rusty by now, being exposed to one Semitic language from a young age and learning another later, David has always been interested in picking apart the linguistics of the Semitic family as a whole. Judah Rashed is a sophomore in high school. She joined LingLeague about a month ago. She is originally from Palestine, but she grew up in Amman, Jordan. Her first language is Arabic, and since she lives in Jordan, one of the main countries for refugees and immigrants, she got to learn about every type of Arabic and understands the differences and how it all connects. She is currently learning both French and Japanese. So let's give a huge hand to David and Jude. Take it on.
All right, so I'm David.
And I'm Jude.
And welcome to the Talk Semitic Languages Overview. I'm going to share my screen now for the presentation. Can everyone see it good?
Half of it is showing.
Oh, all right. Yeah, okay. Is it good now?
Wait 1 second.
There's a bit cut on the right.
Okay. Okay, that should be fine. All right. 1 second.
Yeah, it's perfect now.
Okay. All right. So first, we're just going to say hello in some Semitic languages. You can unmute and repeat after us for each one if you want.
In Arabic, we say salam, which originally comes from the word peace.
In Hebrew, it's shalom, which is the same Peace. In Amharic, it's Selamu, which again, same word, sounds similar. In Maltese, it's Bonjour, which isn't from the same root, but it's from a Romance root, which we'll discuss later. And then in NEO-ARAMAIC, it's Shlama, which is the same as Shalom, Salam, Salami.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yep. Or now.
Where?
So Semitic languages are spread throughout North Africa and Southwest Asia, and they've been given spotlight roles throughout the linguistic history of the Middle East for more than 4,000 years. So as for the specific languages, we'll tell you a bit about a few of the living ones, although there are many more that we won't show here just because we don't have enough time, and there are many more that are dead, unfortunately. So first, Hebrew. About 9.3 million speakers worldwide speak modern Hebrew, or Ivrit. So about 8.3 million in Israel and 1 million elsewhere. So in the left picture, the dark blue indicates a Hebrew-speaking majority, whereas the white indicates an Arabic-speaking majority. And Biblical Hebrew is also spoken by many more than just that 9.3 million people as a religious language by most Jews worldwide. And so modern Hebrew varies very little dialectally, but it's not the only Hebrew language surviving. Dozens of creoles exist all over Europe, Africa, and Asia. From around 2,000 years ago until the 1800s, Hebrew was primarily spoken in its biblical form as a purely religious language. However, people did commonly speak Hebrew creoles, or languages that had developed from a mix of Hebrew with whatever the native language was of the place where the Jews were expelled to. So the most famous ones are Yiddish, Ladino, and Judeo-Arabic. However, as you can see, there are a ton of different ones. There's even a Judeo-Arabic, Judeo-Amharic, and Judeo-Aramaic, which is funny because those languages are already Semitic languages related to Hebrew. Many of these creoles are still spoken. However, a lot of them are and have been dying out. So next, with 31 million native speakers and over 25 million second language speakers, is Amharic, spoken mostly in Ethiopia. It's shown in the green here. It is closely related to other Ethiopian Semitic languages, such as Tigrinya, in addition to Old South Arabian languages, some of which are still alive, like Mehri in Yemen and Oman. And another interesting fact is that Amharic is one of the most spoken African languages in the US.
I'm sorry, just 1 second, because I'm having technical problems.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's alright. Can you skip to something else and then we go back to Arabic till I fix my problem?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
It's good. All right, so let's skip to NEO-ARAMAIC. So the next Semitic language we gave a greeting for was NEO-ARAMAIC. Like Arabic and Hebrew, the classical form of NEO-ARAMAIC, which is just called Aramaic, is used as a religious language for Syriac Christians. But NEO-ARAMAIC does survive until this day as a spoken language itself in parts of the Middle East. However, it's dying out really fast. It has around 575,000 to maybe 1 million speakers, depending on how you count it. And also, it's worth mentioning that there's not just one NEO-ARAMAIC. There's many different languages and dialects, each spoken by a small, distinct community in a pocket of the Middle East. And so, Jude, just tell me when you're good so we can go back to Arabic. But yeah, so we'll just continue ahead and we can come back. So interestingly, as we mentioned a little before, many of the Semitic languages are spoken in their classical form, but not necessarily understood by many more people than speak them actually natively. And that's because of religion. Jews throughout the world speak Biblical Hebrew daily when praying or reading the Torah. Muslims speak Classical Arabic when praying or reading from the Quran or the Hadith. And Syriac Christians speak Aramaic when praying or reading from the Syriac Bible. And this situation isn't necessarily unique to Semitic languages. For example, languages like Coptic do similar things. But it is true for this family more than any other. And so now we'll look at the Semitic family tree.
Even in like our religion, Arabic from an area to an area differs so much, but that we don't all agree what the Quran is saying because we don't 100% understand what originally the Arabic meant. This is how much the Arabic evolved into sort of different language.
Joud, are you ready to do the Arabic side to talk more about that now or no?
Give me 1 second.
Okay. Sorry,
I
everyone.
apologize.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, 1 second. Okay, yeah. I'll do Arabic.
Okay, I'll go back.
Okay.
There
Are
we
you
go.
ready? Alright, thank you. Modern Arabic has spoken by around 422 million speakers natively, and as a second language, which makes it the sixth most spoken language in the world. Classical Arabic is also the religious language of 1.8 billion Muslims, similar to how Biblic Hebrew is the religion language of Jews. Arabic originated in Arabian deserts and spread outward with the Islamic conquest of the 600s and 700s, and is now by far the dominant language in the Middle East. Okay, next slide. Okay. Modern colloquial Arabic is highly divergent by dialectical. Each color here represents a different dialectal spoken. A standard language exists as a lingua franca. MSA, Modern Standard Arabic, is rarely spoken. It is the main version taught to learners. However, dialects near the prophecy, such as Moroccan Arabic, Somali Arabic, and Juba, are considered the most different from Classical Arabic. Many times, dialectal are mutually unintelligible. The line between what is and isn't a dialectal is iffy. And some say that actually some of the dialectal are distant languages in themselves. But there is one Arabic offspring that is never considered a dialect, and that's next slide. Multi or Multi. Do I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. Maltese is spoken on the island of Malta in the Mediterranean. Maltese is the only Semitic language written by the Roman alphabet, the only one to have official status in Europe in the European Union. Maltese developed in the dialect of Arabic called Cyclo-Arabic, spoken exclusively before it was taken over by the Normans. Maltese is considered its own separate language, mostly because of the vocabulary, although its grammar, syntax, and phonology are Semitic to the core. Maltese vocabulary is two-thirds Romance. Maltese is spoken by about 483k people.
And then we'll skip ahead. Back to the Semitic family tree.
Okay, so next we'll talk about the Semitic family tree and the relationship between all languages. Okay. Alright, I'm sorry, it's lagging. So there are three different big branches of the Semitic tree: East, Central, and South. East Semitic languages are all Dutch, but South Semitic languages include Amharic, as well as many Ethiopian languages and minority languages in Yemen and Oman. And North Semitic languages include Arabic, Hebrew, Maltese, and Aramaic.
So in ancient times, the Middle East was much more linguistically diverse. So here you can see the basic linguistic makeup of the area around until the 7th century, where Arabic expanded out of Central Arabia and displaced many of the other Semitic languages, like Akkadian, North Arabian, and so on, and almost Aramaic. So Aramaic is almost dead, as we mentioned, and Hebrew was dead for a long time as a spoken language, not counting its creoles. So Hebrew was revived in the 19th century by Eliezer ben Yehuda, a Jewish linguist who got many people to speak it again as a colloquial language, not just a religious language. He codified the grammar and added many new words for new technological concepts. But really, the Middle East has still shrunk linguistically in diversity. There's many less families and many less languages.
Okay. The Semitic language wait, can you put next? Oh, we did. The Semitic language family is also part of the larger Afroasiatic language family, of which many more languages exist today, as well, such as Berber, Hausa, and Somali.
And so now we'll get to the actual linguistic information. So first off, what do these languages sound like? So because the languages all stem from a common ancestor, they're all very similar. The similarities come in three different places: the sound systems of the languages, which we're about to discuss, the grammar of the languages, which we'll discuss later, and also the actual words, the lexicon of each language. So there are a ton of words that are similar across all three Semitic languages we're featuring today. All 5 Semitic languages we're featuring today? I think we're featuring 5. But all of the Semitic languages as a whole in general. So there are 2 main sources of the similarities. And the first source of the similarities accounts for almost all of them, and that's just that they all descend from a common ancestor, Proto-Semitic, which is why they're called Semitic languages. So one Proto-Semitic word could evolve differently into each language. For example, the Proto-Semitic word Rashed, meaning head, evolved into Rosh in Hebrew, Ras in Arabic, and Isi in Amharic, as well as into the other Semitic languages, all meaning head, although sometimes the meaning does change. And the second source is modern borrowings or loanwords. This is most prevalent with Hebrew and Arabic, since the majority of Hebrew speakers live in Israel-Palestine, which has a large population of Arabic speakers. A ton of slang terms have crossed over from Palestinian Arabic into Hebrew, and also from Hebrew into Palestinian Arabic. So there are a ton of Arabic words in Hebrew slang today, so much so that most of them you don't really think of as Arabic words anymore, like ahlan, yala, and habibi. And then there are also a lot of Hebrew words in Palestinian Arabic, like taib, or tov, or beseda, or rotev. Like, for example, yala, yawa in Arabic became yala in Hebrew, and beseda in Hebrew became besedr in Arabic, or Palestinian Arabic, more specifically. So here are the modern Hebrew consonants. Hebrew has a few sounds that don't exist in English, such as the alveolar affricate tsa and the uvular fricatives cha and ra. It says r there, the IPA symbol, but is usually pronounced in most dialects as ra, or a uvular fricative. And also, the sound in parentheses here, to be clear, aren't natively in the Hebrew language. It's just that Hebrew has a lot of loan words from languages like English, which do have those sounds. The Hebrew vowel system is way simpler than English is. There are only 5 vowels, and they're the same ones that are in Spanish. The system, called the 5-vowel system, is by far the most prevalent in the world. About 2/3 of all languages have this exact vowel system. I, E, A, O, U.
All right. Constant AMHARIC has, which English doesn't, are adjective sounds. P, T, K, T, S, and T. Yeah. Also, AMHARIC has one vowel sound that English doesn't have. N.
Yeah, it's the middle one. I.
Wait 1 second. Okay. Next, Arabic. Arabic has really different pronunciations depending on the dialect, but we'll just look at the modern standards Arabic for simply. Arabic has a lot of sounds that aren't in English too, like emphatic sounds. Like emphatic sounds. T, D, S, O, I'm sorry.
Like the ta, da.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
It's good.
As he said, Arabic vowel system is even simpler than Hebrew. Its core, there are really only 3 vowels. A, which are Aleph, Waw, and yeah. However, these vowels can come in different lengths. So, yeah, will always be different and I in spoken language, although there are very diphthongs, which complicates things. Now moving to Maltese. Maltese consonant inverti is basically an Italianized version of Arabic. It includes the ha, yeah, it includes ha, but otherwise it's basically Romans. You can see which Arabic sounds merge into Maltese sounds in here.
And finally, NEO-ARAMAIC. So the different varieties of NEO-ARAMAIC, like the different dialects of Arabic, have different phonologies. But this is the most widely spoken variety, Assyrian NEO-ARAMAIC. So it has a lot of consonants English doesn't have, like the emphatic ta, sa, and the uvulars qa, kha, and ra. So the vowel system is also a simple 5-vowel system, except it has the addition of the vowel I in the middle. And so now we're going to talk about writing systems. So the Semitic scripts are thought to have a common ancestor in a hypothetical Proto-Semitic writing system, which is thought to be based in Egyptian hieroglyphs. So Semitic scripts are often divided into North and South Semitic. All Semitic scripts are written from right to left, except Ge'ez, which is the script AMHARIC is written in the top left here, Cuneiform, and Babylonian. And so those are all written from left to right like English. North Semitic writing systems are abjads, which means that each sign or symbol represents a consonant. At first, vowels weren't represented in writing at all. However, later, certain consonants came to be used for vowel letters, as either that consonant disappeared from speech, or diphthongs with it simplified into just vowels and the consonant symbols were reinterpreted as vowel symbols. In any case, vowel letters did develop, and most modern abjads are actually considered to be imperfect abjads, which means that some vowels, usually long vowels, are written with their own symbols. Since the alphabets of the West actually derive from the Semitic scripts, we can actually trace all of the vowel letters to Semitic consonant letters. I comes from y, U comes from w, E comes from h, O comes from and A comes from a. So the North Semitic script consists of a Canaanite branch and an Aramaic branch. the Canaanite branch gave rise to early Hebrew and Phoenician writing, which eventually became the source of the Greek alphabet and the Cyrillic and the Roman alphabet and so on. So the Canaanite branch eventually not only became Greek, Roman, Cyrillic, but also Mongolian and Manchu scripts, as well as the Uyghur script, the Cherokee script, and most of these scripts in the world. The South Semitic script, though, also survived until modern times for writing Ethiopian languages. So Ge'ez is not an abjad, though. It's syllabic. It's an abugida. So that means that each symbol represents a consonant plus a vowel, or a consonant plus a no vowel and a no consonant plus a vowel. But for simplicity's sake, one consonant, one vowel, that's an abugida. And so we'll look at the writing systems now. And we'll look at them in terms of album covers. So these are all album covers in Amharic. So we chose the left one because the album title is actually Abugida, which is the name of the type of writing system linguistically. It's a funny linguistic joke. For example, in the album cover, Abugida, there are 4 characters. A, Bu, Gi, and Da. Another example is Rahel Getu's name is Ra-Hel Ge-Tu. 5 characters. And now we'll look at Hebrew. These are all album covers in Hebrew. We chose the leftmost 2 because they contain both cursive and block Hebrew script. When people write stuff down in modern Hebrew, it's almost always in cursive script, which is the lower one. But block script, which is the top one and the one of the right 2 posters, is used more often in printed, sculpted, and painted text, as well as religious texts. So Hebrew, unlike Amharic, goes right to left, the opposite of the Roman alphabet. Hebrew script is an abjad, as we mentioned, an imperfect one, not an alphabet and not an abugida. Letters are only written for the consonants, and certain vowels, as said before. For example, in the middle artist's name, Gad el-Baz, it's expressed in 8 letters in the Roman alphabet, but only 6 in the Hebrew abjad. G, D, E, L, B, and Z.
Alright. Now these are album covers in Arabic. Arabic, like Hebrew, is read right to left, and like Hebrew, is also an abjad rather than abjudo or alphabet. Now we have NEO-ARAMAIC. These are these are all albums covers in NEO-ARAMAIC. NEO-ARAMAIC is an imperfect abjad like Arabic and Hebrew, also read right to left.
Yeah, and so now we're going to talk about the infamous Semitic languages. And this is the one thing you hear when you hear Semitic languages, so linguistically. It's a very interesting and unique grammatical feature of all of the Semitic languages, they all have it, the trilateral root system. So in most languages, words can be pronounced. Roots can be pronounced. The root of the word creation in English is create. Easy enough. The root of the word cats is cat. You just add the S to make it plural. Very easy. But in Semitic languages, a root isn't and can't be displayed as a concrete pronounceable form. Instead, roots are abstract combinations of 3 consonants associated with a particular range of meaning. So to make these words, the 3 consonants aren't just pronounced all in a row without any vowels. That'd just be hard to pronounce. Instead, you make words by putting different combinations of vowels, prefixes, and suffixes between and around the 3 root letters. So this makes the Semitic languages unique in the world. Some languages have some words which change vowels or that kind of thing. Think English sit versus sat. But the Semitic languages do it regularly and on purpose. In Semitic languages, the vowel change and prefixes and suffixes, mostly the vowel changes, those are the regular thing, whereas in other languages, those are irregular. So for example, in all Semitic languages, the root for to wear is L, B, S, or SH, so la, ba, sa, or sha, depending on the language. To make the third person masculine past tense in each language, otherwise known as he did blank, you insert an a between each root letter. So in Arabic, he wore is labas. In Hebrew, it's lavash. And in Amharic, well, this one's slightly different. There's a suffix, but still, it's labaswali. And in each language, I will wear, or in Arabic, this has just come to mean I wear in the present tense, has the same root, labasarsha, but a different grammatical meaning. So in Arabic, albis, in Hebrew, albash, and Amharic, ilbisaleu. So the vowels change, but the consonants stay consonant. And I was going to make that joke, and there it is. And so now we'll go over some basic phrases as we wrap the presentation. So in each language, my name is only one word because there's a zero copula, which means that there's no word for to be or is. Is just blank. And because the possessor, my, for my name, is actually encoded as a suffix onto the word name. So in Hebrew, it's shmi. In NEO-ARAMAIC, it's shimmi.
In Arabic, it's ismi.
In Maltese, it's yisimni. And in Amharic, it's sime. So they all sound super similar, and that makes sense.
Gunai in each language is also similar. We are giving you some more formal versions because they are the ones that where you can really see the similarities. In Arabic, as usual, ordinary, Layla طيبة. But from where I'm from, it depends on the area, but where I'm from, we say تصبح على خير.
In Maltese, it can be Ilayla Taiba, and notice they sound almost exactly the same in Arabic and Maltese, which makes sense. In Hebrew, it's Laila Tov, still sounds similar. And NEO-ARAMAIC, it's Laylay Tav, also similar. And in Amharic, this one's different, but it's Dena Eder. And of course, the most important basic phrase that you'll obviously need when you go to any country in the Middle East, you're definitely going to need this phrase, is LingLeague is great. I'll totally join their Discord right now, which David will link in the chat afterwards, to hear more about more events like these in the future. So in Hebrew, it's LingLeague סבבה, לחלוטין נצטרף לדיסקורד שלהם עכשיו, לשמוע על יותר אירועים כזה בעתיד.
And in Arabic, الخاص بهم الآن لسماع المزيد من مثل هذه الفعاليات في المستقبل. On Discord, في Discord LingLeague رائع سأنضم إليه تماما.
And I'll link that Discord now. And thank you guys all for watching our presentation despite slight technical difficulties. And if you have any questions or comments or discussions, you can say them out loud or in the chat or whatever you want, and I'll work on linking that Discord in the description, in the chat.
Seriously, thank you all. We appreciate it, and I apologize. This is my first presentation, so I'm kind of new to this.
It's all good. All right, so, okay, first question, I can answer it, and then Jude, you can say what you want to say for answering it. But how do Semitic speakers read without vowels? This is a really common question, but I think it's two things. It's one, memorization or just familiarity. Like if you see a word, you just know what the word is and you know how to pronounce it. Like it's like in Chinese where there's the logographs, you just know what it sounds like. And the second thing is that there are a lot of patterns. So like if in Hebrew I see that there's 3 consonants in a row, and just depending on the consonants, I think, like if I see there's a sh, a l, and a g, I'm fairly sure that it's sheleg if it's a noun or shalag if it's a verb. And you just know because, like we said, for the 3-root system, depending on the morphology of the word, the meaning of the word, there's different vowels. So the vowels kind of depend on the meaning. And so depending on the meaning, you know how to pronounce it, if that makes sense. So Jude, do you have another answer to that?
Yes, so in Arabic, we have something called harakat, which the literal translation to it is movements. So each letter, you can add 3 movements to it. So let's say the letter A or alif, which is originally a. So it can, let's talk about the letter B. It's originally ba, but it can be ba, bi, bu. And these are the three vowels of the Arabic language.
Yeah, so there is a similar thing in Hebrew, talking about like the vowel markings that you can optionally put on words for learners and for like more specific speech. Usually I don't think you write them, but in Hebrew this is called nikud, and it's a very similar thing.
On exams we have like, you have to write them. You have sentences without the movements on them or the marks.
Yeah. So what's the situation of NEO-ARAMAIC right now, like preservation efforts and such? So not being an expert, not going great, but I do think it's been revived definitely in the past century. Many more people are speaking it than before. And if you join the Discord, I will do some searching after this and send you a link to documents I find about this. But yeah, I don't know much. Do you know more about this?
I'm not sure, but I guess there are some scripts in certain areas in Jordan, since there's a lot of immigration back in the day. There are actually in certain areas there are old scripts from a lot of Semitic languages, including Hebrew.
Yeah, but basically, it's a situation common with a lot of other language preservation efforts around the world, which is not amazing. Yeah. Did the Eastern Semitic languages also have the triliteral root system? Yes, they most certainly did. Yeah. Is there a low amount of ambiguity in words, so much that you don't need to write vowels, or is it just an inconvenience that everyone's just adapted to? Like I said before, I think, see, if all of the roots, it really plays into the triliteral root system. So like if all of the roots are consonants and consonants are what are written, then you know by looking at a word what root it is, and you know by either context or some prefixes and suffixes, but usually just like context, what form of the root or what vowels you put between the consonant letters. In other words, what morphological meaning it is. So like we had the example of in Hebrew is lavash versus elbash, like I will wash versus he washed. Lavash is just L-B-S-H, kind of. But you know from context that you're meaning he did something, and you know the root, wash, from the consonant letters, so you know what it is, basically. Oh, okay. Thank you, Taryn. Would you recommend some books, resources for Semitic languages, Levantine in particular? So the Levant is definitely the most linguistically diverse place, in the Middle East, with Arabic, Hebrew, but also NEO-ARAMAIC there. And yeah, about for learning them, is that what you're trying to? Is that what you mean? Sorry.
If you want to know the general idea, there's this book called A Brief Introduction to Semitic Languages by R&D-R.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Do modern Hebrew and Arabic have any cases, or is it just implied through word order? In Hebrew, I think in way older Hebrew, there were cases, and that's still there in some really like not common phrases, or common phrases, but it's not commonly used the cases. Basically Hebrew doesn't have cases, but in some phrases like habaita, for example, in that phrase it means like to home, and we just know that means to home, but it's not a productive system. You can't add case affixes to a word and get the case. But we do have an accusative marker in Hebrew, basically marking the direct object, et, and you put it before definite direct objects. But that's not as much a case as a particle. Joud, in Arabic, do you know?
Yeah, in Arabic we actually do, like, mostly we use suffix to help with them, depending, because even when you learn the grammar, you gotta learn like the grammar. There's different grammar for like if it's one or if it's two, or even it's we have like 3 types of more than one thing. So it's either female, male, or unknown, non-binary, and yeah.
Yeah. So I've heard that Maltese verbs sometimes conjugate in the Semitic way and sometimes in the Romance style conjugation. Is this true? As far as I in the little research I did about Maltese for this, I'm pretty sure that is true, depending on the source of the word. Although I've also heard that a lot of Romance loanwords get reanalyzed as Semitic and take Semitic conjugations. Yeah. Oh, books about the history of those languages. Joud, does the book you said talk about that?
It does. It gives like a general idea of everything.
Nice. Okay. Heard a while ago that Arabic has 2 types of plural, kind of like Latin had a form meaning plural as in 2, and yes, this is 100% true. It's in, I'm pretty sure, all of the Semitic languages, where there's a difference between a dual form meaning just 2 blank and a plural form meaning more than 2 blank. So
it does. Yeah. There is. It's very important because it changes a lot of the meanings.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the Hebrew and Arabic ones sound very similar. Like in Hebrew, for example, if I say...
They do.
Yeah, if I say like 2 legs, it would be laglaim with an aim at the end. But if I say legs, like meaning more than 2, it's just laglim with an im at the end.
Yeah, in Arabic, like 1 leg is رجل, but in 2 it's رجلتان or رجلتين.
Yeah, so perfect. We actually accidentally picked a word that sounds similar, is cognate with Hebrew and Arabic, legal and rijl. Yeah, so are there any more questions that you guys have for us?
Would you like to know a fun fact?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So actually, British imperialism, especially to Jordan and colonization, had a big part of changing the language. For example, 1 second, it's my mom.
I can answer one of the questions going in the chat while Jude's talking. Oh, okay. Jude's finished.
All right.
Yeah, you finished.
All right, thank you.
Questions in the chat.
So British imperialism and colonization actually had a huge thing for evolving Arabic, especially a Jordanian one. For example, the word dozen in English, which means 12 of something, we didn't have that word a long time ago. But now with British, the imperialism, we have the word dazina, which means dozen.
Cool. I did not know that. That's awesome. Well, interesting. So Parso in the chat asked, how does the Hebrew tense system work? The tense system, I'm not I am sure for some of it that it's similar to Arabic, but not the whole thing. Basically, there's basically just the past, present, and future, and the future tense. In each tense, you vary the vowels between the consonant roots to know who's doing it, like the person and number of the subject. And you also sometimes add suffixes about the person and number of the subject. In the future tense, you add prefixes that are the same as the Arabic present tense prefixes, which is interesting. So like alif as a prefix in Hebrew means I will blink, whereas in Arabic, I'm pretty sure it means I blink, like in the present, right, Jude?
Yeah, true. But we have like one extra tense in Arabic. It's not only past and future. We also have something called amr, which means like to force someone to do something. So when you ask someone to do something, or it's actually its own tense.
Yeah, like imperative or jussive, I think it would be in English. But yeah, and basically for Hebrew tense system, you vary the vowels and add suffixes for person and number of the subject. For the future tense, you add prefixes for the person of this and number of the subject as well. And for the past,
do you have any markings for like the tenses?
What? Sorry.
Do you have markings for the tense?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Same.
Why do the scripts look so different even if they're related? Just evolution, I guess. And it's like different ways of writing them. Like
and also religion had that big part of it.
Yeah, that's true also. Because that's a lot of what they're used for. But like also like the Hebrew block script looks much more different than Arabic than the Hebrew cursive script does. So, yeah.
Like even, I know we're talking about just Semitic languages, but like the kanjis in Japanese, and every language has like different scripting and a way of writing. But
so Proto-Semitic was constructed based on Arabic because it's very conservative. Is that true? I don't know enough about the subject to provide an answer about it. Jude?
Which one's the question?
The last one. So it's asking if Proto-Semitic was constructed or reconstructed based on Arabic.
It can, kind of.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. Although I think I have heard that Arabic is more conservative, especially regarding the consonants. Arabic preserves all of the Proto-Semitic consonants, whereas almost every other Semitic languages narrows them down and merges them. So that might be a reason for what you're saying there. We can wait like a minute more for if people are still typing questions in the chat. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for listening. Yeah.
For real, we appreciate it. Also, thank you, David. You did a lot of, good job.
Yeah, and thank you, Jude, for helping with for helping me and helping present today. We wish we also could have featured more Semitic languages, but we don't have the people, so.
Yeah, we have limitations.
Yeah.
And I don't exactly have as much time as I can. Being a high school student is hard, man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. شكرا وتودا لكلام. Thank you, everyone.
Shukran, guys.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.